Hi everyone! So I'm finally going to do my integration video after my two ayahuasca ceremonies and talk about what that was like. So I've been back in the US now for about a month and a half, almost 2 months, and things have changed a lot since I've gotten back. Things are much different than I thought they would be, but what I really want to discuss right now is the 1 month following my ayahuasca ceremonies, because that's when I experienced the most growth, I guess. It was very interesting. So to start off, when I first finished, about the first week after returning, I had to go back to class and get back to my normal life, which, as you can imagine, is a little weird. I would definitely recommend, if you want to do something like this, that you take more time for yourself afterwards, like maybe a week off, to kind of like get back to reality a bit. But I had to go back to class. I didn't have a choice. I had already actually missed some class to do it. So I do remember, I think it was the first day I was back in class after doing it, so this might be like 3 or 4 days after my final ceremony. I was just sitting there and I could just, it was like early morning, so when you haven't gotten, and I hadn't gotten much sleep, so when you haven't gotten a lot of sleep, I mean, you're already kind of in a weird headspace anyway. And I just remember sitting there and I was just kind of like having like parts of the trip come back to me, just realizations kind of flowing. I'm just sitting there in class kind of like working through the stuff and very, very much like feeling it, but not in a negative way, because I've had like flashbacks from other psychedelics before that were like kind of terrifying, and it made me just not feel good. But actually for me, any sort of feeling like that with ayahuasca afterwards, where it was like I could kind of feel it even though I was off, it was very positive. It wasn't scary. It's not like you start hallucinating or anything like that. You just kind of go into this headspace of thoughtfulness that really helps you grow and like finalize everything you learned in your ceremonies. I would say that actually the most learning I had from the two ceremonies was the month following. It was really incredible. So one thing that I took from the ceremonies was, I mean, I took so much, so I'm definitely not going to be able to delve into like everything I learned, because, well, one, a lot of it's extremely personal and not really relevant to what someone else might experience, but two, it's just way too much. Also, I left my notebook back home in at my mom's place, so I don't have like all the little details that I actually kind of wanted to have to like finish this video, but it's fine. And also, I forgot my good computer camera again, so I'm just gonna do this now, even though I don't have the good computer camera that I wanted to do this video, because if I don't knock it out now, I'm never gonna do it. It's already been like so long. So anyway, one of the things I did take was that I was, in my ego death, I was separated from myself, my personality, my thoughts, my fears, and as I discussed in my ayahuasca video. And so I learned from that like these descriptors of myself, of my personality, are not who I am. Like, I would always just consider myself like an awkward person, like, and that's just kind of how I described myself and who I was, or I was an anxious person, and I owned that, like it was like a part of me. And from the ceremonies, I learned that that's not a part of me at all. Those, I might have anxieties in my life, and I might be awkward from time to time, but it's not who I am. And I was able to separate myself from that, which I think totally like got rid of my anxiety, at least for the month following. Like, my anxiety was like almost non-existent. It was incredible. And even feeling awkward, like that was just not something that I was dealing with anymore. So, and it was funny because more recently I like said something like, oh, I'm anxious. And then I remembered, I was like, wait, why am I putting myself in this box again? Like, that I'm just like an anxious person. Then I remembered that like from the ayahuasca, I learned that I don't have to be that, you know, because it's not actually who I am. And like saying that I am anxious and I am awkward is actually kind of limiting and keeping me like in this little box of anxiety and awkwardness. And so I've had to like recheck myself, because it's hard to actually like keep those lessons like applied through your life, because it's easy to get like wrapped up in your old thought patterns afterwards. So I'm actually glad I'm making this video now, because it's a good time to kind of like recheck myself and make sure that I'm like still applying like all the things that I learned from the ceremonies. So, another big thing that was like, this was actually super cool, and it kind of sounds scary, but it was so cool, is I remember sitting there, and I would think of a place, like maybe from my childhood, somewhere from the past, like it was obviously like I had a lot of processing going on really quickly in my head, and then I would think of a place, and I mean, this isn't something I'm trying to do, but it's happening, and it would be like I was right there. It was so cool, and this was maybe like 1 or 2 weeks following, maybe 3 weeks following the ceremonies. Like, I thought of this place that I had, like, an example is I was sitting in class and I thought of this place that where my old babysitter's house was in their backyard. And it wasn't a positive or negative memory, just, a memory of the place and being there as like a maybe 2 or 3 year old. And it was almost like I was as present there in the memory as I was right where I was in the present, sitting in class. And, like, obviously you can decipher, like, I knew I was in class, like, it's not like I thought I was in the other place, but it was so vivid, like, your imagination is so vivid, it's really cool, actually. Another thing, and this kind of sucked actually, but because like your brain, like I was processing so much all the time, like I felt like my brain was just going through like the biggest growth of my entire life, and like all these things were coming in and going through, and it was craziness. Time moved so fast. The month following my 2 ceremonies went like that. Like you could have told me it was a week and I would have believed it. Like that's how fast it went. Like time always kind of feels like it's moving fast, and there's periods where it feels faster or slower, but I'm telling you, after that ceremony, man, that went by so quickly. But then another thing that was like so cool was on my final ceremony, I asked to like find my joy, and I remember the month following the ceremony, I had the most joy I've ever had in my life. It was incredible. Like, I remember like one night coming home from class and just like putting on Avril Lavigne videos. I know this sounds so stupid, but like I was a huge Avril Lavigne fan as a kid, and I was just like putting on her old videos, and I was just in bliss. It was like I was a kid again, just like listening to it, and I felt happiness in a way that I hadn't been able to feel it in so long, because I had just let go of all the stuff that was keeping me from happiness. It was like I wish I could relive that month again, honestly. It was the most joyous time of my life, and I was just constantly having these realizations and these like epiphanies, I guess. It was so cool, but they were like all so positive, and I felt so positive about everything and about my life, and it was that month was so much more a part of the growth than the ceremonies themselves. Like it was so beautiful. But one drawback I would say was that I couldn't be as focused, I guess, like on schoolwork and stuff. Like a lot of it just felt kind of like stupid, kind of trivial. Like it didn't feel important to me. And I mean, like, I didn't go into the ceremonies saying like, hey, I want to like get my life together in terms of like being better with school and stuff like that. Like my focus was more to work on my happiness, and that's what I did. And so maybe if I do ayahuasca again, I'll say like one of my goals could be to like get more focused in my life. But I didn't feel that that was what I need. And I mean, I was still able to get through my school and pass everything, but I definitely like it felt just so irrelevant and unimportant, I guess. And I still kind of feel that way in a sense. Like I'm back in school at my home university, and like it does. Some of it feels just like really, just really not that important. But that's fine, because like now I'm like in a place where I'm like really, I'm a little more back on earth, and I'm going to be able to get my degree, which is great. But also another thing is I've never really felt that like school was like that important. I've always felt that I've learned a lot more out of the classroom than I ever had in the classroom. So that's kind of just my own personal mindset. But then, I guess the final thing I'm going to say about this, is having conversations with people. So there were these 2 people that were in my study abroad program, and we had the best conversations. Like they were so much a part of like helping me grow and process and get through my integration in a positive way. Particularly one person, him and I would just get into these conversations, and actually him and I had talked prior to me doing my ceremonies, and he helped me so immensely. So that really speaks to to how important it is to have these conversations, but with the right people. Because what else I will say about that is that talking to many other people actually was kind of a negative experience for me, because a lot of people, they either didn't understand, or they didn't want to understand, and they had preconceived notions about like what doing this was. Like, oh, you just went out and did a psychedelic and, you know, some drug essentially. And those conversations actually kind of took away, because it almost like minimized my experience. So I would say, like, be careful who you discuss these things with. Make sure it's the right people. And sometimes if you find that you start talking with someone who you think might be right, and then you find that it's minimizing it for you, or it's not contributing, I would say just stop the conversation and don't continue having that conversation with them, because you don't need someone else's ideas getting in the way of what's going on with you. But then, of course, if you have someone who's good to talk to about this and who's actually helping you grow through it, that's like so, like, I can't even put into words how beneficial that is. So, I mean, and this person, what was so nice is that actually when the program ended, he told me like I had helped him grow so much and helped him learn so much. And I was like, you don't understand. You helped me grow and learn more than you could ever imagine. So, I mean, I think that when you have those, there are some people in your life and you'll have this mutually beneficial relationship where you're both helping each other grow in like maybe a different but kind of an equal way. And I was lucky to have someone like that in my program. Not everyone will have someone they can share these experiences with like that, but I hope that to any of you considering doing ayahuasca, that you are able to find someone who you can have these sort of conversations with. So anyway, that's like an extremely like brief outlook on like what I experienced with my integration from ayahuasca. I would say, another thing is I kept a notebook with me all the time. Like, cause I would have these things come into my head and I just had to write it down because it was so important. So, and then, okay, so I'm actually going to do my next video on kind of a little more about my bufo experience, which was at the end of my integration from ayahuasca. Because I had a few more realizations since then. So that was actually kind of the perfect way to finish integration, was to do the Bufo DMT, which was almost exactly a month after I did ayahuasca. So I think that's all for this video. I might actually do another video talking about like coming back to the US and like maintaining your lessons and maintaining the happiness you get from ayahuasca after integration, because it is easy to get wrapped backed up in the same old shit. And then you see, oh, I'm falling back into the same patterns. So you really want to make sure you don't do that, because you've done all this work, or in my case, I had done all this work to like get to this place where I was just like in pure bliss and happy. And I have to maintain that. And I've learned that coming back, that how easy it was to slip back into my old shit. So I'm working on maintaining everything I learned from the ayahuasca. And actually, I so badly want to do ayahuasca again, like preferably within the next year, because I feel like it's something you can do 100 times in your life. I wouldn't say do it close together, like, so I'd say maybe wait another year and I'd like to do it, or something like that. But yeah, if anyone knows of any good ayahuasca places in the United States, like, let me know. I would prefer to go back to Costa Rica to do it, or even Peru if possible, or even Colombia. But if anyone has any recommendations on that, like, I'm open, send me a message or leave a comment below. Also, if anyone knows of good places to do a Bufo ceremony, let me know that as well. But I will discuss Bufo in my next video again. Also, I will, so I think my next video will be Bufo, and then I'm going to do a video about my experience in Costa Rica, and then I'll do a video about maintaining lessons from integration. I know it's taken me forever to do all this stuff, but these are all things that I will do. All right, bye guys!